Okay. Again, live from Annapolis, it's the Environment and Transportation Committee. I am your friendly chairman, Delegate Kumar Barve. I'm joined here by my friendly vice chairman, Dana Stein, and the happy and hardworking people of the Environment and Transportation Committee. We have a number of interesting bills. Let me read the bill order. The first bill, which is a full public hearing, is Senate Bill 612. We welcome back Pam Beidel. Then Senate Bill 557, Senator Sidner and Kelly, followed by Senate Bill 703, which is a Frederick County Senator's Bill, Senate Bill 746, also a Frederick County Senator's Bill, and the final bill of the afternoon will be Senate Bill 869, Senator Washington. And so Senate Bill 612 is going to be introduced by our good friend Pam Beidel, who was once a really productive member of the committee itself, and she was the chair of the Transportation Committee in the Environment and Transportation Committee. And so welcome back, Pam. Pam, we've given this a full public hearing because it's an especially important subject matter. You have 4 minutes. You'll see the timer go through 2 minutes 2 times, and then each of your witnesses will have 2 minutes and we'll proceed to questions. And let me also say that because the bill is jointly assigned with the Judiciary Committee, we're welcoming also delegates Moon, Kurt Anderson, and Lauren Erickson. So with that, Pam, welcome back to ENT. We still have one of those little golf carts that you gave to all of us in a committee party as a gift. So, the golf cart lives on. What can I say? Unfortunately. So.
Thank you, Chair Barbe and Vice Chair Stein, members of Environment, Transportation, and members of Judiciary. It's my pleasure to be back in the committee. I miss all of you. It's just so much fun, the time that I spent in Environment and Transportation. But thank you for the opportunity to hear Senate Bill 612. You probably know this weekend was a big flurry of activities with street racing and exhibition racing. And there were some very serious incidences. One in Laurel where a police cruiser was destroyed. I think there were about 100 people there. There was one in Baltimore City on Pratt Street and Presidential, which is a very busy intersection. The intersection was blocked for 4 light changes. Emergency vehicles could not get through the traffic to get to the hospital. And then Northern Parkway, there was another event where bottles were thrown at police officers. 2 weekends ago, we had this in my community. We had 8 police officers, 2 state troopers. Vehicles went to 4 different locations, but they blocked roads. So police officers could not get to where the exhibition racing was to even give tickets. What Senate Bill 612 does is it increases the penalties, increases the fines, adds more penalties for reckless driving. But I think more importantly, it allows police officers to impound vehicles. And this is what worked in Ocean City. This bill was drafted by your own Patrick Tracy, who drafted the Ocean City legislation to help with issues with the HTO event. It's very similar legislation. But I think impounding these precious vehicles is what will really help to slow down these incidences. It's almost like they're saying, we're not doing anything, so we're going to proliferate these all over the state. They do this by Snapchat and other social media, so they can at a last minute change their location where they're going to show up. But when you have 300 vehicles and police, the police departments don't have that number of officers. In Ocean City, they'll have 150 officers on duty the weekend of HTO. But on a Saturday night, we often have just whoever's serving the regular post that night, along with a couple of state troopers. So the Senate amended the bill with 4 amendments. It did pass the Senate unanimously, 47-0. It clarified it takes at least 2 vehicles to be considered exhibition racing. It removed the inclusion of spectators and included a prohibition on modifications of the exhaust system that they can't exceed local sound laws. So that's basically what the Senate did. I think you've all heard it in your communities. If you haven't, I'm surprised. It's all over Montgomery County, Prince George's County, Anne Arundel County, Baltimore County. And not only is it our local folks, the vehicles are coming from Delaware, Pennsylvania, Virginia, New Jersey. If we don't do something to stop this, we're going to be known as the state where they can do Saturday night exhibition racing. So I would appreciate your support, and I'm happy to be here for questions.
Okay, Senator Bidel, we're going to go through all your witnesses first, and then we will entertain questions. The first witness signed up in favor is Michael Shire. Michael, I hope I got your last name correct. He's with the FOP of Anne Arundel County. Mr. Shire, welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes.
Thank you. Can you hear me okay?
I can.
Great. Thank you, Committee Chair, for the opportunity to speak today, and thank you to Senator Bidel for introducing this legislation. As you mentioned, my name is Michael Shire. You did get it right. Appreciate that. I'm a board member of the Anne Arundel County Fraternal Order of Police. I also serve as a lieutenant with Anne Arundel County Police, and I'm also an attorney bar here in Maryland practicing as well. We have seen an alarming increase in the incidence of street racing and exhibition driving across our state. These events consist of hundreds of cars gathering on public streets and parking lots, throwing their cars around like kids playing with Hot Wheel toys. The danger of their actions cannot be overstated. They block intersections, surround and attack our citizens and police officers alike as they're recklessly speeding and spinning across our public roadways. Why don't they stop? Because our current set of laws is just not sufficient deterrent for their actions. A few $100s in fines is really nothing for these people who spend tens of thousands of dollars on their vehicles to make them the loudest, fastest, and most audacious on the road. The overwhelming police response we've seen in Ocean City to these activities has demonstrated that the deterrence power of these laws works. The goal for police officers is not to have to enforce these laws, because by the time we do, it might be too late and somebody might be hurt. Someone is going to get hurt. It was recently demonstrated in a video that was published from the New York City area where a participant was run over by a vehicle. Recent news media coverage from our own area just this past weekend, as the senator mentioned, gives a stark example of how the same events are occurring across the streets in the state of Maryland. The penalties that are attached to 612 demonstrate that Maryland would take this problem seriously, and it would be an important part of discouraging this behavior before the worst happens. Especially the towing provisions. These people are car enthusiasts. They certainly don't like to have to walk home. That would be a strong deterrent. Please, we're asking you to please report favorably, pass this legislation, send the message early on that this dangerous behavior is unacceptable. Please don't wait to have to explain to a grieving family why we didn't do anything to stop this problem before it devolved into the death of one of their loved ones. And I thank you for everybody's time.
Thank you very much. Next up is Russell Hamill. Mr. Hamill, welcome to the committee. Tell us who you represent, and you have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Chair Barve, members of the House Environment and Transportation Committee, and thank you for this opportunity to speak here today. Can you guys hear me? Just making sure.
Yes, we can hear you.
Okay, thank you. I see some friends of mine on the screen here, so hello to you all. I am Chief Russ Hamill, and I'm here representing the Maryland Chiefs of Police Association as its first vice president. On behalf of the Maryland Chiefs and Maryland Sheriff Associations, I'm here to speak in support of Senate Bill 612. I know it is the end of the session. You all are extremely busy, and I wouldn't be here except the overall safety of our state community requires that I speak here today. 612 is intended to address public safety concerns that arise from street racing, exhibition driving throughout the state. The bill would increase penalties for such violations as described in the law, including applying points to an individual's driver's license. Across Maryland, there have been continual concerns regarding safety upon our roadways due to the reckless and careless driving engaged in by street racers and exhibition drivers. The actions of these drivers, who often conduct such activities with large groups of competitors and observers, often cause roadways to be closed to other traffic, including first responders en route to provide care for others. They also cause others using our roadways, including pedestrians, bicyclists, other drivers, to be placed in grave danger due to their actions. These actions include conducting speed contests on our roads, closing roadways with vehicles in human chains, and conducting exhibition driving activities, all with a careless disregard for the safety of the community. If you haven't already, I strongly urge you to please look at the videos from Baltimore, Anne Arundel, Montgomery, and Prince George's counties from just this past weekend. One snapshot this weekend. It displays the dangerousness of this behavior. It was on full display, and these events have now become the norm across our state. These activities have been ongoing across our state for several years. Passage of the legislation to properly address such to help preserve the safety and welfare of all is needed and achieves our goals of reducing traffic and pedestrian-related fatalities and injuries. These special event zones, as established in Ocean City by prior legislation, are needed across the state. I ask you to please give a favorable support to Bill 612. And thank you for taking the time to listen to me today.
Thank you very much. Next, let's turn to Karen Coakley with the Beltsville Citizens Association. Karen, I believe you've been before us before. Welcome back to the
I'm back again. I am passionate about this. Chairman Barbe, Vice Chair Stein, and members of the committee. My name is Karen Coakley, a lifelong community activist from Beltsville. I have served on both fire and police citizens advisories in Prince George's County. My question to you is, how, when, and why did someone's entertainment become more important than someone's life? From the moment I saw I-95 close for stunt drivers' entertainment in 2021, my first thoughts were of potential innocent victims. When first responders are delayed because of entertainment road closures, the person who lost their life, the persons whose injuries wound up being significantly worse. Racing parties create three types of victims. One, the innocent, because first responders were delayed because of entertainment road closures. Two, spectators who may have lost their lives, such as those down on Indian Head Highway in Prince George's County. Three, last but not least, police officers dealing with hundreds of drivers and spectators who outnumber them, sometimes by more than 20 to 1. These situations create mob mentality. In the video from Laurel, someone opened the gas tank of the police cruiser. Thank God they were stopped. If that car had been ignited, the officer and spectators could have died, or they would have suffered needless severe injuries. In an emergency situation, seconds count, seconds matter. The quicker first responders arrive, fire damages are less, medical treatment is delivered sooner, ramification of emergency situations are not as severe because of entertainment roads closures. Lives are not lost. I ask you, what do you say to the citizens of Maryland who have suffered damage or loss to property, whose loved one is injured or dies? Is someone's entertainment more important than the losses to citizens of Maryland? How do you tell the families that Maryland puts greater priority on entertainment than life? Lives matter more. You need to do right by the citizens of Maryland. You need to vote yes to Senate Bill 612. Follow your colleagues in the state Senate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Next, let's turn to Kevin Jones with the Baltimore Police Department. Kevin, welcome to the committee.
Good afternoon. Thank you. Can you hear me?
We can.
Good.
Actually, if you could sit a little closer to your microphone, that would be a little better. You're a little fuzzy.
I'll try to do as best as I can. I'll speak up. So
okay.
I'm Colonel Kevin Jones. I am the Chief of Patrol for Baltimore Police Department, and I am here to be a proponent and support of Senate Bill 612. We believe here wholeheartedly that the consequences and the deterrence factor of this bill will aid not only us, but our sister agencies in addressing this issue. Many of us realize that unfortunately drag racing has been a part of American culture since the 1950s, and sometimes has taken the unfortunate stance of having now been placed in as a issue with public safety as well as disorder. Here in the Baltimore region and other regions, we realize that this is a resource drain on our agency. We now have to address it with multiple officers, supervisors, our helicopter unit. We have our open source and our data-driven strategy has to track the social media aspect of this, as well as our fatal crash reduction team, which then pulls them away from what is our main focus in public safety, responding to true emergency calls for service and proactive policing and community engagement. This act right now, what we see is addresses not only the noise of the engines, the screeching of the tires, and the audio systems and fans that occupy the intersections as well. We're well aware of traffic crashes associated with this, both vehicular and pedestrian, the traffic congestion that is caused by the obstruction of these vehicles, as well as the reduced service time of the emergency vehicles. And lastly, it creates an excess wear and tear on public streets, as well as the street markings by the burning of these tires. Again, we are a proponent for this Senate bill, and we ask that you as well support us in this bill, and I thank you for my time.
Okay, thank you very much. Next, let's turn to Michelle Wurzberger with the Baltimore Police Department. Michelle, welcome to the committee.
Thank you, sir. Thank you. Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, Vice Chair, members of the committee, members of the Judiciary Committee. For the record, my name is Michelle Wurzberger. I'm the Director of Government Affairs. Colonel Jones said everything I was going to say. He did a great job. You should have our letter of support in your packet. And we just strongly urge you to report a favorable report on this bill. Thank you, sir.
Thank you very much. Next, let's turn to the final verbal witness, Brian Carney with the Anne Arundel County Police Department. Brian, welcome to the committee. You have 2 minutes.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman and committee members. Lieutenant Brian Carney, a current police commander, here on behalf of the Anne Arundel County Police Department in favor of this important legislation. This bill addresses a growing trend of deliberate and pre-planned unruly street racing and expedition driving events, which law enforcement across the state and nationally have been receiving complaints about. Police become involved because of concerned citizens, traffic violations, or crimes being committed. These events are well-intended, often occur weekly, and attract hundreds of spectators from multiple states. They occur on roadways, bridges, intersections, and parking lots. To avoid law enforcement, participants organize on closed social media groups and disclose meet locations last minute. These events are driven by a thrill and social media notoriety, which makes them more dangerous. Videos are posted with cars doing stunts, sometimes with fire. Spectators will run around the cars, almost getting hit. We are concerned because of disorderly crowds stopping traffic in all directions, which affects first responders from reaching people who may need them. Crowds have deliberately blocked responding officers, surrounded and damaged police cars. In some events, bottles and fireworks have been thrown at officers, only accentuating the dangers to public safety and the community. The groups usually travel from one area to the other, requiring several police agencies to become involved. Due to the crowd size and people refusing to leave, significant police resources may be tied up dispersing crowds, which is often time-consuming and costly to taxpayers. Scenes like this play out regularly in Anne Arundel County and across the state. These events are costly in manpower and resources. Because of the often reckless behavior and blatant disregard for law and order, these events also present a clear and present danger to our communities. Current laws don't discourage these events and prove ineffective to safeguarding against this reckless behavior. Senate Bill 612 extends proven measures which curtail this criminal activity in Ocean City. This statewide legislation will help keep our roadways and communities safe, and we urge a favorable report. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'd like to say a few things. First of all, does anybody have, or what is the definition in this bill of exhibition driving, or is that defined in the law? Patrick, you're here someplace, right?
Yeah, I'm here.
Yeah, is exhibition driving currently defined in the law, or is it defined in the bill?
It is defined in the law for Worcester County and Ocean City, and we moved it to be a statewide definition in the bill.
Okay, got it.
It's the same definition as Senator Bidle, excuse me.
Okay.
They did change it to 2 or more cars.
Okay, so let me read. I had Patrick, this is an important bill. I had Patrick summarize what Senate Bill 612 does. So let me read off Patrick's summary, and then we've got a lot of people who have questions, and we'll go to all of you in order. And here's what Senate Bill 612 does, for those of you who haven't had a chance to read it yet. Number 1, it increases points assessed against a driver's license for participating in a race or a speed contest or engaging in exhibition driving to 8 points, 12 points if these activities result in bodily injury or death. Number 2, increases penalties for participating in a race or a speed contest where death or serious bodily injury do not occur to a maximum of 60 days imprisonment or $1,000 fine. Number 3, authorizes towing and impoundment of vehicles that participate in a race or a speed contest. Number 4, explicitly prohibits engagement in exhibition driving. 5, authorizes towing and impoundment for engaging in exhibition driving. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 establishes penalties for exhibition driving that mirror those in the bill for participating in a race or speed contest. And then finally prohibits modification of exhaust system or noise abatement device, I guess like a muffler, to make a vehicle louder than originally manufactured and louder than sound limits set by the MVA subject to a $200 fine. So that's a quick synopsis of what Senate Bill 612 does. If I've made a mistake, I'm sure somebody at some point will correct me, because nobody seems to be very bashful about that. So let's go to Delegate Weigel, who has the first question.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Is Senator Bidle still on the call?
Oh, yeah.
I am.
Thank you. Good to see you. So my question kind of goes back to bills that we had earlier in the session, and I know Delegate Cham had introduced one in regards to dirt bikes and riding in the streets in the city of Hagerstown, and I don't think any of those were advanced. So I guess my question is, I know yours says motor vehicle. I don't know if that question is to you or Patrick, but what is the definition of a motor vehicle? And then secondly, would you be receptive to an amendment that would direct the Governor's Office of Crime Prevention, Youth and Victim Services to look into the issue of unlicensed vehicles being driven on the street? It's kind of similar to what you're doing here, but I think that your bill only pertains to licensed vehicles.
Delegate Weigel, thank you for the questions. I don't believe this designates any difference between 2 or 4 wheels, but Patrick Tracy's going to need to confirm that. He's the professional in this, because it just says motor vehicle.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that definition of a motor vehicle is.
Yeah, but I'm a little, it's not that I don't like your amendment. I'm a little reluctant 4 days before the end of session to amend a bill that then has to come back. But if you can just guarantee me that it gets back to the Senate, that would be helpful. Patrick, can you answer the question about 2 wheels or 4 wheels?
Well, your bill here applies to motor vehicles that are registered in the state.
Right.
Vehicles, certainly motorcycles, anything that's allowed on the road, street legal, if you will. The bill that Delegate Weigel is referring to, Delegate Cham's bill, was referring to not street legal vehicles, pocket rockets, things like that.
Yeah, and let me just clarify that I'm planning to do after the primary, for those of us who survive, I'm planning to do a summer study on that issue area. Anyway.
So, Mr. Chairman, you're planning to do a summer study even though no bill was passed to do that?
Well, that's the best time to do a summer study.
No, but usually summer studies are required by legislation.
No. This is an interim study of the committee.
Okay, so that'll take care of that issue.
I believe so, yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Okay, next question goes to Jerry Clark.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, it's good to see you. Bill asked all the exact same questions I was going to ask. So thank you very much for this bill. It's badly needed. Let's get it done.
Thank you.
Okay, next question goes to Delegate Marlon Ampry.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator, for bringing this bill forward. We've got to do a better job of keeping our streets more safe. So I appreciate the efforts there. I'm always just a little worried about the potential impacts on certain communities and worried about some of the language here. I'm just a little concerned about in regards to the definition of an activity where it's 2 cars. It's like 2 or more cars. So literally, I could have a situation where a hypothetical, you pull up to somebody, oh, hey, let's race down this street real quick at a red light. It's a joke. You let him go ahead, he or she go ahead, they get into an accident. That person would be liable under this bill that didn't go. In a 30-second instance, someone could possibly be liable if that person had a serious injury under the language of this bill, as I'm reading it. So I'm just trying to understand why the 2-car minimum was the rule. And if my hypothetical would be a situation in which the person who decided to play a joke and not actually race the person down, a quarter mile, them being liable for that person's injury or death. So looking at imprisonment for that. So I'm just trying to better understand the reasons for just for such a narrow definition of the activity.
Delegate Ampry, thank you for that question. And actually, when the bill first came in, it didn't require that. It could have been 1 car. So okay. I think that JPR was narrowing it by saying 2 more cars. Though I will tell you, when I was 17 years old, I got arrested for doing exactly what you said.
Right, yeah.
I was drag racing down Ritchie Highway. So we don't need this bill to stop that. Drag racing on major roads is illegal. I didn't actually get arrested. I got taken home, but that was like being arrested because my father was a police officer. But this is really defining, the abrupt acceleration or deceleration, skidding, squealing, swerving, swaying, producing unreasonable loud, grinding the gears. It really is more than just racing. It describes a whole list of things that can apply. They're really looking for this group of cars that are causing this kind of interruption.
No, yeah. I understand. I'm just thinking about enforcement and the police officers and the situation that I described. That would still fall under the language of the bill. And my worry is that I don't know. I think I really want to stop these big groups for sure. Like I understand the danger that they present, but I feel as though the language here it's a bit too narrow for me because I just see a situation where we could have over enforcement in certain communities in order to, and with the imprisonment there for up to a year for someone who didn't actually go through with the speeding and just based on the language, I'm struggling a little bit. So I might have to talk offline with you possibly just to get a better understanding of the intent. And I think that it might be a little overarching there, but thanks again for bringing this bill.
Thank you.
Thank you. Next question goes to Delegate Lehman.
Thank you so much, Mr. Chairman. And hello to Senator Bidel. Thank you for bringing this bill. You and I have talked because I had a similar legislation, and I just appreciate you being persistent. And I think you're right. This past weekend's events were so over the top. We really have to take a look at this. My question is about a provision that was in my bill that I do not think is in yours, and I'm wondering if you can tell us why. And it is referred to in law enforcement circles as must appear. I had conversations with the police captain in Ocean City that's worked on this issue, and he believes that one of the best things the General Assembly did for Worcester County in that bill we passed a few years ago was to allow the police to make this a must appear offense, where if a driver was cited, he or she has to appear in court. They are not allowed to prepay the fine. Is there any particular reason, if you didn't include must appear, which I don't think you did, why not? And would you be open to that? I know at this point you said you don't really want to amend this bill, but I believe that's a strong deterrent.
Thank you, Delegate Lehman. And I'm looking in the fiscal note because I just read it this morning, and Patrick Tracy can help me with this. But I think with these violations, they are a must appear. It's just automatically they are a must appear. Patrick, am I correct? Somewhere in the fiscal note.
Correct. Because there's jail time associated with these violations, they are automatically must appear. And we don't need the language.
Thank you.
I'm sorry. Okay, thank you for that clarification. Mr. Chairman, if I could, one other very quick question.
Actually, before you go to your other question, no, go ahead and do your question, then I have another question.
Because it's relevant to the jail time. Okay, so Delegate Ampry expressed concern about the jail time, and I certainly understand the reason for that. However, I was asked about that too when I presented the bill, and in current law, right now, you can face up to 1 year in jail if someone is injured as a result of the event. So I was a little surprised, and I did not touch that provision. Senator Bidel, I don't know if you removed it, but I was a little confused by the fact that your bill says you could be subject to 60 days in jail. And I wondered if you could explain that difference.
Patrick, was that put in by JPR or was that in the original bill? Patrick?
1 second, I was muted.
Okay.
Yeah, that was in the original bill. Delegate Lehman said it right. A year if there's injuries or death, and 60 days if there's not.
So that's what's in the bill.
And as Delegate Lehman said, the 1 year is current law.
If there's not an injury, Patrick, is that the new provision?
Right, that's the 60 days.
Thank you so much.
Yeah, that answers the question I would have had. Delegate Sheila Ruth.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Bidel, for this bill. It's obviously it's a huge problem that we need to address, statewide. And Delegate Lehman actually sort of asked my question, but just to follow up a little bit, Obviously, this is a huge problem, but I'm always concerned about incarceration, particularly in over-policed communities. And if impoundment is the best deterrence, and if the goal is deterrence, I wondered if there had been any discussion in the Senate about whether incarceration is needed in this as well for those. Obviously, when as the current law, when somebody's injured, or killed, that's one thing. But if there's no injury, if there was any discussion about that.
Delegate Ruth, thank you for that question. I do not sit in JPR, thank goodness. I'm happy to be in finance. So I don't know if that discussion occurred in the committee or not. And I understand the concern. And I'm just going to ask, if your committee makes a decision to amend this bill, please do it quickly. I don't want to see this bill die before Monday, because it's just affecting our community so greatly. So
I understand. I understand. Thank you, and agree. Just to quickly follow up, do I understand that the spectator provision was removed?
It was, and I will tell you that was of concern to me, because the problem we have with the spectators is they're the ones blocking the road. They put their cars in the middle of the road and block, so they're not doing the racing. In this bill, they're not going to be, charged with reckless driving or expedition driving. But, that was the decision made by judiciary, by JPR. And I honored that, because, I honor the committee process.
Yeah, I understand. It's a difficult issue, but I was also concerned about people getting wrapped up who maybe hadn't intended to go, but just, happened to be in the wrong place at the wrong time. Thank you so much, Senator.
Thank you.
Okay, next let's turn to Delegate Ann Healy.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman, and welcome back, Senator Bidle. Good to see you. And thank you for this bill. I have similar questions. I think the questions about the must appear and the incarceration we've talked about, so I'm not going to go there, but I will ask about, because I think you've identified the problem very clearly, and we just really looking for the most effective solution and what will really work. And I wanted to ask, actually, not you, but one of the law enforcement people, that the witnesses that are here, about the issue of how they could enforce this law. If the roads are blocked and they can't get through now, how will this law help them get through to do the enforcement? Is there one of the police officers that testified, are they still on the call?
Yeah, they appear, some of them do. So if somebody wants to pipe up and answer, please do so.
Yep. So I'll go first. Colonel Kevin Jones, Baltimore City Police Department. So, we use a litany of things between our Foxtrot, which is our helicopter unit that can focus down on it. We also use our body worn camera that the officers are wearing themselves, but also we utilize a lot of our City Watch cameras, as well as commercial and other cameras that may pick up those tags, and then we will follow up on the back end. We don't want to put, although we will not be pursuing vehicles, we'll utilize all of the investigative steps that we have necessary to follow up with those citations.
Okay. And the question about impounding, is the experience with law enforcement or anybody who's been dealing with this on an ongoing basis, is there an issue with people using stolen cars in these operations, in this kind of activity? Or is it actually the owners of these vehicles that, they'd be more impressed with it being impounded if it was their own vehicle, but if they stole it for this purpose, then maybe not.
Delegate Healy, in the statistics that we received from Ocean City this year, there wasn't any charges of stolen vehicles. There were, I think, 150 vehicles impounded, a number of people charged, but there was no issue of stolen vehicles. So typically they've invested a lot of money in these certain kinds of wheels and mufflers, and they really are kind of their prized possessions. So I think when they've seen a few cars impounded, that may really reduce the number of incidences.
Okay, and my last question, again, for law enforcement is the descriptions of these activities and are like borderline a riot on wheels. The question I have is there some way to apply riot law, whatever that is? I'm not an attorney, so I don't know, but it just seems like this is like, out of control crowds that are on wheels and that are very dangerous to their surroundings. And
You
so
want to read them the riot act, huh?
almost literally so, yes.
Is anybody from law enforcement around who can answer that?
Could they be charged with disorderly?
If I may, Delegate.
Go ahead.
This is Chief Hamill. So reading the riot act, and I understand what that means. Part of this is we don't want to be creating the moment even further. So by often there are CERT teams that are sent to the areas of these for if the actions get even further out of control, causing further property damage, or as people commonly refer to as rioting. We hope it doesn't come to that. And for instance, there isn't a police chief in the area that's not getting emails about this constantly. And I get the questions. Why don't you just break through? Because they do a human chain. They join arms, and we can't get by them. And we are in our application of force. We attempt to be judicious, and that's what I mean by not creating a further moment here. So it's almost darned if you do and darned if you don't. And I really clean that up from the people in the committee that know me. But it is these are very dynamic situations that we try to tamper them down. You saw what happened, and it was a Prince George's County police car, and not in the city of Laurel, just outside the city of Laurel over the weekend. And you see the actions there, and it is deeply concerning. But for us, it's even more deeply concerning that where that could go to from there. And we try not to allow that to happen. Hopefully that answers the question.
Well, thank you. It's a problem, and we need to try to solve it somehow. And it may take more than one piece of legislation. Thank you.
Okay, next question goes to Delegate Stewart.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, Senator Bile, for bringing this bill. It's really important. Thank you all, everyone who joined us this afternoon. I had a conversation with a constituent in March at her door, and we're talking about the loud noise in particular that we hear, especially from the ICC in my area, Montgomery County. And what the conversation evolved into is that she actually mentioned that her nephew, who lives in Fairfax County, Virginia, is involved. I don't know how heavily, but it's involved with these kinds of exhibition scenes where they go and, spin out and all that. And he has one of these, cars that he is, put a lot of money into, making it very loud and very obnoxious. And she was saying that basically the nephew comes and his sort of, friends specifically target Maryland because we have, and we've always heard this, but we have the lowest fines and the lowest punishment in the area. And so they typically come in from all areas. And you mentioned this obviously in your initial testimony as well. So I went and looked it up after I had that conversation with her and was startled to see the discrepancy. So for misdemeanor engaging in a speed race or speed contest or racing or whatever you want to call it, for misdemeanors, in other words, when you don't harm anyone, their civil penalty is 5 times ours. And their imprisonment, which I agree with some of my colleagues, I'm not totally sure imprisonment is the solution, but their imprisonment is 12 times higher than our imprisonment. And you immediately lose your license in Virginia for even misdemeanor for up to 2 years immediately. It's just revoked. And then for felony, they have an up to a 20-year imprisonment term in Virginia. Now, again, I think that's pretty draconian. I mean, very draconian. I'm not suggesting that we do that. But I was startled to see the discrepancies. And honestly, for acting from a rational actor standpoint, I understand why all these folks are coming into Maryland. It's such a huge discrepancy in what from slap in the wrist in Maryland versus real, genuine penalties in Virginia. And obviously your bill doesn't even bring us, that close to Virginia. There would still be a discrepancy, but obviously it would narrow it a little bit more. So I guess my question is either for the bill sponsor or any of our friends from law enforcement who are here, if you could just talk a little bit more about any experiences that y'all have had firsthand with this sort of tourism element of this and what your research, whether, via social media or whatever, has uncovered about how big of a problem that is, folks coming from other states because our penalties are so low.
Delegate Stewart, I can only reflect on what's happened in Ocean City and how much the bill that we'd already passed helped in the Ocean City event. I mean, it reduced it dramatically. In interviews after the HTO event in 2021, drivers said it wasn't as much fun because there was so much law enforcement and, you know, cars are getting impounded. So, you know, sometimes I think we need to take baby steps or, you know, maybe, as they say, eat a dinosaur one bite at a time, but we need to do something. So is this enough? I don't know, but is it something we need to pass? I think we need to do something. And I appreciate your information on your question.
Okay, next question goes to Delegate Melissa Wells.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you to the bill sponsor. So I think, like my colleagues that have asked questions ahead, in terms of the exhibition piece, I don't disagree that like this is a serious problem in Maryland. I've seen it on 95 myself driving between DC and Baltimore. And so that part, I think though, what I do want to like kind of dig a little deeper into, and this may be for law enforcement, is just understanding the section on page 6 around the noise enhancement. And so if law enforcement, could you just kind of explain like what's the current practice in terms of enforcement of that? And I think that's also, there's already a section in the code that has limitations, but I'm just trying to understand how we actually enforce that. And I know colleagues have mentioned previously, you know, the concern around the disparity enforcement. So that's the one thing that I'm a little bit still unsure about. I'll be honest, Senator, with this bill is that section that was added. So if folks could add any context, it will be helpful in me as I, you know, think about this bill.
Delegate Wells, I need law enforcement to answer that. This was put on by JPR because of the great deal of noise, and that's what my community complained about when our event happened a couple of weeks ago. But I think is Commander Carney still on the call with us? Maybe he can answer that one. I don't know if he's still here. Maybe not.
Okay. Well, if not, I mean, I think my biggest thing is I do understand the exhibition piece. I just think that this might be a little bit far reaching into other elements that I think, I know that's a concern, but I don't know if we're really trying to get at exhibition driving. I just think this might be a little bit of an extension of another issue that I would rather us attack separately. But I'm happy to work with the subcommittee on this as well.
Delegate Wells, have you heard these vehicles when they gather up together and all get their mufflers tuned up? Okay.
I have. I'm just a little concerned that it could also, it's not just an exhibition, a way to, I think it could extend past exhibition driving. That's all. That's my concern. Thank you.
Okay. Delegate Jacobs is next.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator Bidle, good to see you today. And I'm kind of piggybacking on Delegate Wells a little bit, and I'm just trying to understand the provision this bill was added on the noise exhaust system. Is this just for while they're participating in these exhibition or race events, or is this anyone driving in general?
Can I ask for our counsel, Patrick Tracy, to answer that, please? Because this wasn't in my original bill.
Patrick,
it's a separate violation.
So it doesn't need to be in this. It doesn't
have to be in concert with exhibition driving or anything.
Thank you, Patrick.
So in other words, it could be anybody just driving down the road who has a aftermarket muffler, or I'm more concerned with mufflers on motorcycles that, you know, for instance, I have Screaming Eagle exhausts on my Harley that are not loud, but they didn't come on the bike originally. So, you know, is this going into an area where you're going to be going in after people that are really not committing any violation? You know, that what the bill is really, I think, trying to go after is this speed conduct contests and exhibitions. And now we've reached over the fence and getting into more of exhaust systems that have possibly been modified or whatever. Which I think is outside the realm of what we're trying to achieve with this bill. I mean, I was on board with the exhibition part of it, but I can't vote for it if we're just going to go after any kind of exhaust, you know, anything that's modified, because you're talking about a lot of stuff in the state and in many states. You know, the aftermarket business is big business.
Delegate Jacobs, I appreciate your concern, and maybe your council can help to put this in a different place so it applies only to the exhibition racing. As I said, this was not my choice. This was an amendment put on in JPR. This is now in your jurisdiction, so it's up to
The
your
loud
committee how
noise-
you want to change it.
The loud noise with the exhibitions are one issue, but I think trying to capture everybody else in the state for anything that's they may get stopped when it's deemed excessive, which may not even be, I think goes way outside the realm of what this bill is trying to do. So
I'm sure Mr. Tracy can help you fix that.
I'll talk
Thank
with
you.
Patrick about that. Thank
Okay.
you very much.
Thank you.
Before I recognize Delegate Prettyman, let me just say, just to remind everybody, the bill is jointly assigned with the Judiciary Committee, and I'm wondering if any of the members, any of our friends from Judiciary were able to join the public hearing today. Anybody there?
Yes.
Oh, David, okay. Have you heard most of the public hearing?
Yes, I've been, this has been a big issue in our district, both the noise modifications and the illegal drag racing.
Okay, well, I just want to make sure somebody from Judiciary was here, so I'm glad you are. Delegate Prettyman has the next question.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you, Senator Bidle, for presenting this bill. You mentioned that this was just a little bite of the apple. And my thoughts are a little bite is better than no bite at all. We've had continuous problems with this drag racing, and Delegate Weigel brought up the dirt bikes and other things of that sort. I've been not necessarily a victim, but I've been stopped on numerous occasions through the city. And I know that Colonel Jones can attest to the areas that I'm talking about, Reisterstown Road and Lawn Street, where the cars have spun around in circles and stopped in front of me to let the dirt bikes and the other cars that are spinning go past before I could proceed in traffic. So I know that this is an issue where we have to start somewhere. And I think that somewhere is now to go forth with this bill and then look forward to our chair with his study as far as the dirt bikes. So thank you again, Senator Biden.
Thank you, Delegate.
Okay, does anybody want to comment on that? Or are there any other questions? Because that was the last hand up that I saw. Anybody from Judiciary have any questions about this? No? Okay, nobody signed up in opposition to this bill, and thank you one and all. Thank you, Senator Bidle. Thank you one and all. This is a rare instance where I decide to have a full-up public hearing with 7 days remaining in the session. But just to remind everybody, whatever we do, it has to pass ENT and Judiciary. So, okay, with that, thank you very much.
Mr. Chair,
Okay, let's proceed to Senate Bill 557, Senators Sidner and Kelly. Is Senator Sidner with us?
I am, Mr. Chair.
Oh, okay, welcome to the Environment and Transportation Committee, sir. You have 4 minutes.
Thank you very much. Senator Charles Sidnor, on behalf of Senate Bill 557, which is a local Baltimore County bill. It's actually a local Baltimore County enabling bill to create a redevelopment authority on the west side of Baltimore County in two districts. The way that West Baltimore County is defined in this bill covers communities or catchment area of communities that are in districts 10 and District 44, hence the co-sponsorship from me and Senator Dolores Kelly. This bill was cross-filed by Delegate Ben Brooks. However, I think his bill, because of the filing, was caught in rules. So again, what the bill does is based off of language that was passed by this General Assembly just over 20 some years ago, based off of a redevelopment authority that was created in Prince George's County, and created because of the reality is West Baltimore County has been an area that's been, that the community feels and I feel has been neglected. not only by the disinvestment of businesses or the private sector, but as well as the public sector. So the idea here was to have this entity so that it could focus on a lot of the attributes that we have that we just don't feel are being marketed to those who could really help. I mean, we have hub zones in the area. We have sustainable communities that are in this catchment area. There's even an opportunity zone that's in the area and a variety of sustainable communities and commercial revitalization zones, which are things that are created at the local county level. As I said, the catchment area will catch all of this, help bring some redevelopment to my side of Baltimore County, as well as Delegate Sheila Ruth. Her side is well, and I'm looking to see if there are any others on, but I don't. One of the things, living as close to Howard, a nice jurisdiction like Howard County, we have a lot of money that tends to not be spent in our area because it just doesn't have the nice amenities and things that other communities have. So we're trying to keep some of those dollars within our community and really grow it. So in a nutshell, that is it. Again, a local bill. We'd love to have your all support. It was, I believe you all should have a letter from the county House delegation. So that's it.
Well, on a local bill, we wouldn't have the public hearing without a letter. So
that's right. That's right. That's right.
Okay. Well, thank you very much, Senator. Any questions for, nobody signed up to testify against the bill. Any questions? Well, I don't see any. Charles, so have a nice day.
Thank you very much.
Okay, let's go next to Senate Bill 703. It's a Frederick County Senator's bill, and I think it's being presented either by Senator Huff or a staff member. Who's here to present that bill?
Senator Huff, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Okay, go ahead, Mike.
Okay, Senate Bill 703 is legislation that just gives Frederick County. Right now, Allegheny County has this ability. You're going to hear a bill, I believe, from St. Mary's doing the same, to give our county council the ability to regulate and allow the use of golf carts on county roads. This is specifically for the community of Lake Linganore. There's already about 500 golf carts there. And so we're trying to make sure they're regulated and in proper use. So we're going to give it to the county council, this enabling legislation.
So, okay, nobody signed up in opposition, and that was pretty quick. Any questions for Senator Huff? So let me see. I have a question here. So will this allow them only on county roads, I see Delegate Fraser Dalgo has his hand up. Let me go to the ex-cop for a question.
That was a long, long time ago in a galaxy far, far away. But Senator, thanks for bringing the bill. Just a very quick question. We have worked on some of the golf cart bills around the state on occasion, but we've been very, very apprehensive about actually giving carte blanche authority away. Is that what your bill does? Is it allow?
Yeah, it's a good question, and I understand that. It is targeted just for Lake Linganore in that area. That's literally the only people. I guess the county council could go crazy and give to everybody, but they don't want to. They were even apprehensive about doing this, but it's the only community in Frederick County where we've got golf cart usage, which is Lake Linganore, which is an enclosed community, but there's obviously some county roads that they can cross over. And so we're just trying to deal with that, and then law enforcement issues in that area. So yes, it is enabling for the county, but it's really only for Lake Linganore.
Okay, well, we'll take a look at it. I will say that when we have moved these bills in the past, they've been very thoughtful and extraordinarily narrowly defined. So we'll take a look, and thank you.
I mean, actually, literally, Dave, these kind of bills in the past have almost literally been for islands and stuff like that, right?
Yeah, they've been specific for a specific island or a specific a subsection of a jurisdiction that was very extraordinarily well defined. So
I mean, we could always, look, it's only for Lake Linganore, so we could always come back and just offer an amendment to say Lake Linganore and the immediate surrounding areas or something. I don't have any opposition to that. And I know over across the street here, we would take that. That's literally the only one it's for. It's just to give the county enabling authority to deal with the golf carts. There's already 500 of them in Lake Linganore, so we're just trying to come up with a way to deal with them.
Okay, thank you, Senator.
The golf carts already crossed the Rubicon there.
That's where it is. Wow.
You have a Rubicon River in Frederick? I didn't know that. Okay, that ends public hearing on Senate Bill 703. Let's go to Senate Bill 746, and I presume, Mike,
Yep.
you're going to present that as well?
Yep, I got that one too. This is just a local bill.
All right, Senator.
That's our Frederick County Sheriff. So after the next election, would put the Frederick County Sheriff's salary at $140,000 for the first 2 years, then it goes to $150,000 for the last two. The sheriff currently makes $125,000. It's actually pretty conservative what the delegation came up with, because if you look at other full service sheriffs in Hartford, Charles County with a similar population, they're at about $175,000. So unanimous through the delegation.
Okay, we do have a question, and nobody signed up in opposition. There's somebody who's written in negatively, but nobody signed up to testify against. So let's go to Delegate Healy.
Yeah, I just wanted to ask, Senator, is there a House cross file that is identical to this?
There is not.
Okay, so this is the only bill related to the sheriff's salaries in.
Yeah,
Frederick County?
the two bills I just did were the only ones. So you'd have to ask our distinguished chair down there, Delegate Celebrity. I don't know why there weren't any House versions, but.
Okay, I just, they usually come to my subcommittee and I get all of these sheriff salary bills, and I've seen so many of them this year because it's the election year. I just wanted to make sure that we hadn't seen a House version of this, or if we did, that it was the same. But there's no other than this one.
There's not another one, unfortunately. So
okay,
kind of this one for Frederick County.
Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? I don't see any, so Senator Huff, you're free to go.
Thank you.
Okay, and the final bill of the afternoon is Senate Bill 869. Senator Washington, welcome back to our committee. I understand you have a PowerPoint, so let's zip through it in 4 minutes if possible. Okay, Mary? I don't hear anything.
Sorry. Yes. Hello. Yes, we will absolutely zip through it.
Okay.
Good afternoon, Chair Barve, members of the Environment Transportation Committee. I'm here to respectfully urge your favorable support of this Baltimore City bill, which encourages and authorizes Baltimore City to conduct a study and to develop land use codes that address the oversaturation of small box discount stores. SB 869 authorizes Baltimore City to regulate the concentration of small box discount stores and to provide a mechanism through which community associations can have some meaningful involvement in economic development and the planning process. When local communities imagine, particularly in light of after COVID, imagine economic development, they often picture a healthy mix of Main Street businesses, of grocery stores and restaurants and services which cater to their specific needs. However, over the last 5 years, particularly in some of the areas that I will show you, small box discount stores, also known as dollar stores, are proliferating. And they're proliferating at such a rate that they threaten local comprehensive planning, which seeks to foster vibrant, viable communities. And as you can see by this slide, it's not just a local issue. It's not just a Baltimore City issue. In fact, it's a statewide, if not a global issue. So the high density of dollar stores in certain commercial districts is actually choking the economic life and impacting nutrition, health, and safety of residents. Small box discount stores, also known as dollar stores, they do carry primarily, if you define what they are, carry national brands. They tend to be between 7,000 and 5,000 square feet. That definition, Mr. Chairman, is codified.
Hey, Mary, you've only got 2 minutes left. And we've
Don't worry,
one
I got
slide.
it. Don't worry, I got it. It provides, these are some, again, they're economic public health impacts. There are public safety and economic impacts. They impact, again, historically, both urban and rural areas, and they can specifically address the choking of small businesses, small independent businesses, and large supermarkets. This is the distribution in Baltimore. They are concentrated in certain areas. In my own district, you'll see that there's a high concentration, less than a mile in between stores, just along one corridor. And this is also an extension of another stretch, the same street, and also which encouraged me, and which is why I decided to draft the legislation. Cities across the country have addressed this. This bill authorizes Baltimore City to have a dispersal regulation on minimum distance. This is what a dispersal regulation means. And also it encourages them to use land use. So it's not outlawing dollar stores themselves, but rather really exploring it as a conditional use, or really looking at what is the best use and need and the potential impact of the location of this type of land use in the community. It also establishes something that I know a lot of communities and a lot of us try to support, which is engaging in a community benefits district. So want them to develop a way in which we can adopt and approve a community benefits district, and it also defines community benefits district in the code. We also, and this was at the request of the city, and it's done in other jurisdictions that have done this, is to actually engage in a comprehensive study to really understand its impact prior to making the legislation. This act is going to take effect in July. We're going to make sure that it gets moving. And then also there'll be a report to the General Assembly. And so I am asking for your favorable report on SB 869.
Hey, Mary, did you intend to only show us one slide in your?
No.
We only saw one slide in your show.
So, that would have been, okay, so can I just,
well, look.
can you see this second slide?
No,
No.
I can only see the first slide.
That's interesting. Well, I will share it with you. I had some great stuff on it.
We've got some questions for you. So
Sure.
why don't we go to those? Oh, that's so cute.
Yeah, okay, you got to see the most important one.
Right, I got to see the little raccoons. Okay. All right, first question goes to Ann Healy.
Yes.
All right, thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. I just wanted, the last thing you talked about, these community benefits districts.
Yeah.
Are these in some way like the business improvement districts that we already have in the code, or is this something totally different?
Yeah, so this is actually a community. Can you see this slide?
I don't see any slides.
I don't see any slides at all now.
Yeah.
No slides.
This is bad. Okay. So a community benefits agreement is it's actually a contract that's signed by and recognized by community associations and an applicant. So it usually addresses specific amenities, signage, mitigations, economic impacts. So it's not a district, it's actually an agreement.
Okay. I'll look forward to finding out more about that. That sounds very interesting. Thank you.
Yes, and I know that there are a number of Prince George's County, there are a number in the rural areas. So this is an issue where these stores come in and they literally suck the life out of longstanding, independent, locally owned businesses. And so I wanted to explore this specifically. How can we, as state legislators, support the use of the land use code, as a tool to really make sure that we get the kind of economic development in our communities that really support local business, local small business, as well as making sure that you're not closing down grocery stores.
You good, Ann? Okay, let's go to Delegate Terraza.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Actually, I was just going to ask if you're going to share that presentation with us.
I am, because it's a really
Senator?
good one, and I don't really understand why you can't see it. So
No, we saw the first page. The first page looked terrific. What can I say?
Yeah, I think this is really a very important issue and a very interesting idea. Oh, are we seeing it? If you click on, I think if you click the next one on the numbers on the left, if you click the numbers, you should be able to get to them. Oh, wait.
Oh, there we go.
Okay, so it's kind of different. Okay, yeah, that just shows you all, that it is a statewide, that it's all over the country. There's research that's been done, so I wanted to show you that this is not just hating on dollar stores, et cetera, but there's just been quite a lot of work done about the specific economic, public health impacts, as well as public safety impacts, because of the way that
Okay, no, that's fine. Listen, Jen, do you have any more questions? Because Delegate Weibel has a question.
Oh, sure.
No, I just really want to see that. I think there was a bill like this a couple years ago sponsored by Delegate Johnson, but I'm looking forward to seeing this because it's such an important issue. Thank you for bringing it.
Sure.
Okay, let's go to Delegate Weibel.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Senator, have you seen the letter from Baltimore City Administration? It's labeled as information, but it doesn't sound like it really supports the bill. It says that it does not call for independent analysis, imposes very broad conditions. It must be met to obtain conditional use and a bunch of stuff. So, I mean, is it supported by them or not?
Yeah, so as amended, which I think I said that the city asked for there to be a study, also address the issue that it's authorizing and it's not specifically telling them to do it. We worked very closely to get the guidelines. And by the way, this was 100% voted 100% in both the House and the Senate delegation.
So, but the Baltimore City Administration is on board as amended?
Yes, absolutely. We've gone through, that's the amendments that the posture that it's in now is the posture that we work very closely with Baltimore City to make sure it fits.
Okay, thank you.
All right, next question goes to Delegate Ruth. And Jen, if you could put your hand down, because for some reason, while these slides are up, I can't do that.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you. And thank you, Senator Washington. And I agree this is an important issue. And actually, you have done exactly what I was about to ask, which is to show that map. I wanted to see the map that you kind of flashed by. And so it very clearly looks like a butterfly to me. So I guess it's safe to say that this impacts Black communities.
Yeah. So in urban areas, it's definitely low income Black and brown communities. But what's very interesting as well, so say if you go to Cumberland or East, it's very, very much looking at low income communities. But yes, they're definitely in Baltimore. In Baltimore, it's definitely in Maryland. There's certainly, you see it in Prince George's and Baltimore. But again, why I'm interested in this topic is that it's that really important intersection between race and class and economic opportunity that I think are shared by both urban areas and rural. And in fact, a lot of the, in Kansas and Texas, the communities that are coming out for this type of legislation are rural white communities and seeing exactly the same things. So it's a real interesting intersection.
Thank you, Senator.
Senator, I've got a couple of questions.
Sure.
So the city government could do this without this bill, right?
Yeah.
I mean, do they have the zoning authority?
Yes. So as the bill was drafted, we were directing them to, and I was walking a fine line based on, I had other slides about, the state's authorization and requiring local jurisdictions to look out for the health and welfare, but to also limit business. This is in current land use code, to limit business practices in the efforts to achieve these goals. And so I did feel as though as a state legislature, that we had the ability to do that. So we couldn't direct it. So I did amend it from specifically requiring it to now authorizing it, because I do want to establish legislative intent, which we have done that in this portion of the state code. We have we specifically at the beginning of it say it is the intent of the General Assembly that zoning will be used to achieve X, Y, and Z. So I feel like this is carrying on to that tradition.
Okay, well, let me ask you a question here. I understand how the Dollar General and Dollar Tree and Family Dollar, I understand how businesses like that can drive small, mom and pop retailers out of business. I get that. What I don't understand is how these stores can negatively impact a grocery store, because it seems to me that if a grocery store made a decision to enter a market, they would probably enter at a lower price point than a store like these. Am I wrong about that? Or
so one of the reasons that why I'm putting in this specific bill is that increasingly Dollar Generals, Family Dollars, and dollar stores are they have grocery components. So for example, if there is a local small grocery store, they will locate right next to them and draw off that 20 or 30%.
Okay, so you're talking about small grocery stores. You're not talking about the Safeways and the
right. But I would right, and I'm also talking about the large grocery stores. So in my district, where this new Dollar General here is the building was bought, there's both a small owned, family owned discount store that's been there for 40 years. And there is a giant food market a block away and a hardware store. And so what the research shows is that when these types of that they look and see, they're not necessarily looking for a place where they're providing an additional service. They're looking to see where they can draw off existing. And so it's found that if they draw off 30% or 20% off of the giant, that giant closes. If they pull off 30%, off of the hardware store, that hardware store closes.
And I take it that the Family Dollar, these stores that sell food, they only sell canned stuff. They don't sell fresh food, right?
That's exactly right. Now, some of them are starting to fresh food, so they're starting to fresh food. But it's a very interesting.
Okay, it looks like Delegate Healy has another question. We're going to wrap up the hearing after.
I'm happy to talk with anybody about it afterward. This is a really phenomenal thing.
Okay, let's go to Delegate Healy.
Now, I'm just thinking about how my experience in Prince George's County is not with this size, but the larger one. When Walmart moved into my district, the Safeway next door was driven out of this, along with a lot of other smaller stores. So why did you focus just on these smaller boxes and not all of them?
Yeah, so Baltimore City already has a big box zone ordinance limiting it, but not in sort of the lower income areas. It's in some of the larger areas where they've designed it that these stores don't fit into the historic character of the community. So we have that. So now the type of store that comes into the areas that I'm concerned about and the aging commercial corridors that I see are these smaller size stores between 7,000 square feet and 10,000 square feet.
I definitely want to talk to you offline. Thank you very much.
Okay, well, I don't see any other hands up. So thank you very much, Senator Washington. That ends the public hearing on Senate Bill 869. So, okay, we're going to have a voting session. Trish, how soon can we do that? Do you need 10 minutes?
10 minutes would be great.
Okay, so we will be live for voting in the committee at, let's make it 2:30. Okay,
Chair.
see you then.
Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Could I also just remind people that after voting is done, we will all go back to our offices if you're on the land use subcommittee, and we will be voting on 3 bills this afternoon in the land use subcommittee.
Oh, you're such a Debbie Downer today, Brooke. Just joking.
Mr.
No,
Chairman.
you're not a Debbie Downer. Yes, who else has an announcement?
Yeah, Mr. Chairman,
Yeah,
Natural
Jim.
Resources, Agriculture, and Open Space will be meeting after Land Use and Ethics.
Okay. All right. Well, let's do the rest of the announcements immediately after the voting session, unless somebody's meeting before the voting session, which I think is nobody. So, okay.